Welcome back to the news at 10. Facebook has made a number of changes since its inception, from user interface to the addition and removal of features, as well as some policy changes. Now, these changes often have their supporters and those who oppose them. In this report, our online correspondent, Victor Matthias, examines one of the latest policy changes the tech giant has made, the data sharing policy with newly acquired messaging application, WhatsApp.
WhatsApp recently announced that it will start sharing phone numbers and other data of its users with Facebook, its parent company. However, this policy, aimed at exploring ways for businesses to communicate with customers on WhatsApp, has drawn a series of reactions from the app's users, including those in Nigeria.
So last week I got an update on my phone from WhatsApp, that its policy will be changing, and of course there was a link for me to read the full policy. But I mean, once I opened it, it was so long I couldn't continue. There was a lot of legal jargons in it, and I just accepted it. I think one of our problems in this country is we really don't read these things.
What I feel is there are different information that should be shared. If it is the private information, I would say a big no to that. But if it is the information, a private information in the sense that what you've chatted with another person and releasing it, making it public on Facebook, because I don't really buy that idea. But when it has to come with sharing the contacts on your WhatsApp, you want to relate the contacts on your WhatsApp to Facebook, I think to a very, very large extent, it will be beneficial to persons.
We have a lot of fraudulent people in the town who like to get data that they can start sending a lot of fraudulent messages to. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't think it's a good idea.
The Director of Global Products and Partnership at Facebook, Mr. Ime Achibong, on the sidelines of a Q&A session with Nigerian developers, explains what informed the policy change.
As you and I know, you can drive around the streets of Lagos or anywhere across the continent and you'll see a bunch of storefronts, right? SMBs, real people that are trying to start businesses, and they will have their WhatsApp number listed out front. So one of the policy changes that we made recently was all about trying to make sure that we could unlock the business to user connections that already exist, but do it in a way that's more robust so that more SMEs can actually find and leverage WhatsApp as a powerful platform for their businesses.
If you haven't accepted the new terms yet, when asked, don't click agree. Instead, click the smaller read more option and untick share my information with Facebook. If you have already accepted those terms, you can still opt out before the end of September. Head to the settings menu in the app and click on the account tab. There you will find the share my account info button and you can revoke your permission. Victor Matthias, Channels Television News.
Well, my next guest on the news at 10 will be talking more about this policy. His name is Bankole Olufemi. He's editor-in-chief, techcabal.com. Bankole, good evening to you. Thank you for joining me on the news at 10.
Thank you for having me.
Well, very interesting views there. I must admit I fall into that category as well. But what do you make about the views of those people, of those respondents about the convergence between WhatsApp and Facebook?
So WhatsApp Facebook owns WhatsApp, and they've owned them for a couple of years now. And what you will notice is that these things are deliberate. The strategic benefits of owning a platform that has 800 million people a month using it is obvious for Facebook, and over time there was going to be collaboration between both companies. But then again, they cannot do these things arbitrarily, so they put the update in the terms and conditions. Obviously, it's so long that a lot of people are going to skip that and just click agree. But then again, the thing that people need to remember is that if you're using a product and you're not paying for it, then that probably means that you are the product, and you should expect that at some point in time they'll try and use your private information for their own commercial gain.
But Bankole, why infringe on my privacy? Why not ask me if I'd want to subscribe to having my private details shared with another particular app that is also very widely used by a lot of people?
You could argue that they put out the update so that you can choose and opt out from that particular ability to access your private information. But you also need to take into consideration that there are many apps and websites that do not even tell you that they are going to access your information. And when you download a new app, it gives you a list of permissions, and it's basically a choice between whether you want to install it or you don't want to install it. And the truth is that people do not read because they're just trying to get stuff done, and then they click agree, and that is that. So these things can be done obviously in ways that give people more choice and allow them to take more control of their information. And there is pressure from the government, from regulatory bodies, to make sure that these companies are putting the appropriate amounts of disclosure as to what will happen to your data, make sure that they anonymize in ways that do not put you in jeopardy. So it kind of is like that. It's a gray line. It's a really, really gray line.
Bankole, I'm sure you were actually among those who had the opportunity of meeting with Mark.
I missed him narrowly.
Oh dear. But better luck next time.
Yeah.
But then, there was a lot of conversation about his visits. What was your major takeaway, even though you were not opportune to meet him?
The biggest thing, and I was eventually at the Q&A the next day when he was in Lagos, is that there is a huge interest in Africa as a continent, in terms of it being the last frontier for economic development and value in terms of creating solutions and solving problems. And that signaling is obviously why Mark decided to come check it out by himself. You might have heard that he via the Chan Zuckerberg Foundation invested about $24 million in a company called Andela that started from Nigeria. But it's not, there's an overarching trend, which is just, Silicon Valley investors, investors in Europe, who are now interested in Africa and are really interested in finding out by coming into, on the ground, what is going on, where the opportunities are, what the barriers to entry are, and then figure out how they can tap into that opportunity. So we have the likes of Y Combinator coming in a couple of weeks. We have the likes of 500 startups who have been around and are scouting, and they'll be here in March, and lots of other investors who will, pretty much be imitating the same behavior and coming around and looking at what is going on in Lagos, what is going on in Nairobi, what is going on in Cape Town, Joburg, and across the African continent in general.
So his visit was actually a major boost for startups in Nigeria. So what do you think the government has done, to help, startups in the country? Do you think it's done enough, and how much more can it do?
I definitely think that the macro levers that need to be moved in terms of broadband access, in terms of power, in terms of infrastructure, there is some effort that we notice. It has left something to be desired in many places, and what we try and call the attention of the government is the National Broadband Plan, for instance, that is supposed to be achieved by 2020. We have approximately 13% penetration of broadband, and that number is supposed to be 30% by 2030. So we're not moving as fast as we need to be. We've seen progress, and the great thing about the previous technology ministry's administration that was led by Dr. Mawala Johnson, when they doubled down on the broadband plan and worked with the likes of Main One to try and reach the last mile, and they were working with the states on a Smart States initiative to waive the right of way so that we can take broadband into where it's needed, the last mile. We've seen the effects of these happen. We've seen the likes of Idea Hub spring up right next to CC Hub and support startups, but that activity needs to increase. And I mean, the great thing about this is that the Asovilla demo day that happened yesterday, over the past few days, was also attended by Mark, and he obviously saw some of the things that we have to offer, and that was great validation for the people that were able to participate in that. But really, they need to focus on those macro levers that move the needle significantly. There's short-term imperatives, but there's long-term things that need to happen.
Well, Bankole, I wouldn't let you go unless you talk about this communication tax. Don't you think it's also going to be an impediment to startups?
Absolutely. Anything that makes it harder for people to consume technology or puts barriers to access is a problem. And with the recent economic recession, it's become the gains that we've been seeing in the drop in the cost of hardware, that is mobile devices that allow people to access content, has kind of erased those benefits, and because the naira against the dollar, it's like it's made phones a bit more expensive.
Sorry to cut you there, but you see, a lot of people will argue with you that we're already paying so much anyway, so why do we have to pay another 9%?
Absolutely, that's the thing, right? So that's what they need to focus on. Make sure that the
government has its own reasons and has its own arguments. They're trying to raise.
I would say do not rob Peter to pay Paul, really.
We'll leave it at that, Bankole. Thank you so much for coming on the News at 10.
Thank you for having me.
The economy of Nasarawa State is set for a boost as the Dangote Group plans to invest 53 billion naira in rice, sugarcane and coal production. The state governor, Tanko Almakura, expects the projects will complement the diversification policy of the federal government.
The in thing now in this country is diversification. Use what you have to survive, because the economic situation in the country is such that we cannot continue to depend on allocations from government, because the allocations are not coming the way we expect them. So every state is supposed to find ways and means of surviving. You will remember that during the presidential budget speech, he admonished all the states to find ways and means of diversification through agriculture and solid minerals. We have taken that as an article of faith as far as we are concerned in Nasarawa State, to ensure that the potentials we have, we try to see how we can exploit them for the benefit of the state, to have another way of earning revenue to augment the little that is available to us through federation allocation.
Well, let's talk more business now with Anne Wawodo, who is standing by in our business studios.
Welcome to Business News. Business owners in Nigeria must employ innovative ways of operating in order to survive the current difficult economic period. This advice is from the Chief Executive of Africa Prudential Registrars, Mr. Peter Ashade. In an interview with Channels Television, he said the companies must be cost efficient and still be able to make profit.
Strategic reassessment of the operations of organizations. You'll now be able to determine what are the controllable factors, the uncontrollable factors, as far as the economy is concerned. That we want to go to the area of diversification where necessary, and
companies
that's the companies now should learn to show beyond what is
the conventional way of doing things.
Correct. So we look at that. Then we want to go to the area of integration, vertical integration where necessary. Because now when we talk of organizations that depend solely on foreign inputs, because of the position of forex now, there will be need for them to have local substitutes to be able to address their production. If not, it's going to affect the total output and affect the earnings, affect everything regarding the organization, which is can lead to even unemployment, and all that.
Now, for most traders in the market, the readmission of suspended banks into the forex market by the Central Bank of Nigeria is expected to stabilize the naira, but that might happen next week. They also expect the CBN to step up liquidity supply to the market and make more efforts towards restoring confidence in the forex market. At the close of trade on Friday, the local currency appreciated to 314 naira 77 kobo to the dollar at the interbank spot FX market, while it weakened to 422 naira at the parallel market. Despite a disappointing second quarter economic data that hit the market this week, the Nigerian equities market rebounded, with the all-share index appreciating by 1.11% to close the week at 27,756.67. Volume traded declined by 0.74% to 1.11 billion shares worth 13.81 billion naira and exchanged in 16,083 deals. Market breadth ended negative, with 28 gainers led by 7up and 30 losers, with May and Baker taking the lead. Banking stocks dominated market activities by volume, as GT Bank, UBA Group and Diamond Bank collectively accounted for 35.37% of total volume traded during the week. And let's move to the interbank market now, where money market fell by 32 basis points to close the week at 17.92%. But analysts at Codorus Capital have attributed this fall to a 333 basis points reduction in overnight rate. The 1, 3 and 6 month tenors reacted more to OMO auctions, totaling 520 billion naira. And that wraps up business news for this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Anne Nwaodo. Back to you, Harriet.
Thank you, Anne. Next on the news at 10, Super Eagles technical advisor Janor wins first game as Nigeria beat Tanzania 1-0 in Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. That's on Sports News. Stay with us.